Deva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing from where we left. So this whole second canto started with the questions that what is the duty of a man, and especially what is the duty of a man who's about to die. So that's the thing with which this second canto started, and the answer to that is Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami is answering these questions, and he is answering in a way that like the hearing about the topics of the Lord is the greatest of medicines that can actually solve the problems of life. And also we saw about offenseless chanting of the names of the Lord. So these are some of the essential aspects. And then now we are going to see Sukadeva Goswami is going to speak about a particular form of meditation, so which is quite unique. So let us see that meditation, and also we will see like why did he speak about this unique form of meditation, right? So let's continue from today's 16th sloka onwards. Grihat pravrajito dhiraha punyatirtha jalaplutah sucho vivikta shino vidivat kalpitasane. One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, he should bathe regularly and sit down in a lonely place, duly sanctified. So this is, I told it's a little unique process that he's going to say. So let's go through this, and then at the end we will see like what is this process all about. So to prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashram Dharma or Sanatan Dharma prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible after one has passed 50 years of age. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities, and therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children without any desire to get out of such comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prized posts until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Bound by such hallucinations, materialistic men prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life. But suddenly, cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 84 lakh species of life according to the fruits of work he has performed. In the next life, persons who are too much attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all energy of human life is spoiled. In order to be saved from danger of spoiling the human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. The principle is that one should take it for granted that the death warning is already there even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age, and thus at any stage of life one should prepare himself for a better next life. The system of Sanatana Dharma institution is so made that the follower is trained for the better next life without any chance that the human life will be spoiled. The holy places all over the world are meant for the residential purposes of retired persons getting ready for a better next life. Intelligent persons must go there at the end of life, and for that matter, after 50 years of age, uh, uh, to live a life of spiritual regeneration for the sake of being freed from family attachment, which is considered to be the shackle of material life. One is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachments. And as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. One should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association, again become family men by illicit connection with the opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. Therefore, it is essential that one practice self control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to become self control in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. The method is that one should have duly sanctified sitting place made of straw, deerskin, carpet, and thus sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of Lord without offenses, as prescribed above. The whole process is to drag the mind from the material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This simple process alone will help one advance to the highest stage of spiritual success. So here we see the aspect of here meditation in seclusion, or going to a place like um, you know like a forest, or some that kind of a meditation process is mentioned. But the essential principle that we should take from this, at least, Prabhupada is mentioning, at least at the age of 50, or if not earlier, at least at the age of 50, one should take note of the warning of death, and then no one should retire from the family life. Otherwise, no, the death is going to come, and the death is a painful kind of a situation. Why it is so painful? Sometimes it is explained that if we lose our mobile phone, or our wallet or something like that, so it is so painful, right? So we know it kind of gives us pain that we lost something very important and valuable. So but then death means it is like pickpocket of everything that we have. All the property, all the people, everything that we have are taken away from us. So it is naturally very painful. And if a person practices giving up things, or practices detaching himself from the worldly affections, so then at the time of death, it is not a painful thing. It is a smooth transition into the spiritual existence, right? So we don't require this body for our survival. So we are spirit souls, and we can exist as spirit souls in the spiritual world, and we require this body only to exist in this material world. And if a person has developed sufficient spiritual maturity, then he can be very happy in the spiritual realm, right? So that is a very important thing. And then here it is also mentioned that one should not at the age of 50, if a person gives up his family life and then goes to a secluded place, or a holy place and things like that, and then there he should not take up another family over there. He should try to be fully spiritually focused. And for that, it is very, very essential that one practice sense control, even while staying back at family life. So it is a gradual practice, and then at the age of 50, he can actually give it up completely, right? So that's mentioned here. And then abhyasen manasa shuddham trivid brahmaksharam param mano yache jita swaso brahma bijam avishmaran. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters A, U, M. So there is Om. And by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. So here, this meditation on the Omkara that is recommended here in this particular shloka. So this goes to say that when Shukadeva Goswami started to speak his his advice to Parikshit Maharaj, he was also concerned about the all other people who are assembled over there. So they were all not devotees of the Lord. So many of the sages, they were all mystic yogis. They were all in different like kind of people were there. So Sukadeva Goswami wanted to attract the attention of everyone. So he starts off with this meditation on the Omkara, and then sitting in a secluded place and things like that. But then gradually, as Srimad Bhagavatam progresses, he takes it to the point of pure devotional service. So in fact, he started off with pure devotional service, like smartavyam, and then shrotavyam, smartavyam, and things like that. So, but then that is an aspect of pure devotional service. Now, what he is speaking now is a mystic yoga process. But then, this will be this is just to attract different audience that were there in the assembly when Parikshit Maharaj was to be instructed. So this is not the process that we follow, but anyways, it is appearing in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will just go through the translations and purports of this, and purports Prabhupada will explain about our process also, right? So that's the conclusion of Bhagavatam. So anyways, so let's see the purport. Omkara, or the Pranava, is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of the three transcendental letters A, U, and And by its chanting by the mind in conjunction with the breathing process, which is transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance. Now, there's an important thing to note. So this meditation on the Om is transcendental process. Definitely, it is beyond the three modes of material nature, but then it is a mechanical process. No, it is not the natural process. So mechanical way of getting into trance as devised by the experience of great mystics. One is able to bring the mind, which is materially absorbed, under control. This is the way of changing the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. The mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. So this is something many of the meditation techniques that people, the modern yoga gurus teach is, no, you should stop all the desires, you should make the desires zero and things like that and all. So, but then that is not the solution that is offered in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the solution offered here is of, one should try to change the engagement of the mind and not to kill the mind or not to kill the desire, that is there. So desire has to be changed to spiritual desire, not, here it is not talked about, finishing of all the desires, making the desire zero. So that's never, mentioned in the scriptures. So this is all some modern, find of these people, just make it completely vacuum your mind and things like that. So that's not thing that is mentioned in the scriptures. The mind is a pivot of the active sense organs, and as such, if quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. So mind is the master of all the senses. If the mind's nature is changed, then the nature of the sensual activities also will change. So now the mind is fully tuned for sense gratification. So wherever we see anything, immediately we think, oh, how can I enjoy that thing? Now, if I see some nice foodstuffs in some of the hotels, immediately oh, how nice it will be if I can eat that, right? So that's the natural thought process that comes because we are tuned for sense gratification. But then when we practice devotional service, so we will tune ourselves in terms of how to serve. Whatever we see, we'll be able to see that how I can use this in service of the Lord, or how I can use this in the service of other children of God, devotees of God and other children of God. So that is the way of thought process that changes. And this is where it is changed. No change is done in the senses, but then the change is done on the quality of the mind, quality of the desire is changed, right? So that's the process of devotional service. So let's continue the purport. Omkara is the seed of transcendental sound, seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of mind and the senses. So the sound vibration is a very, very important thing. Only by uttering the transcendental sound, in our case, Hare Krishna mantra, so it is very, very powerful, and this will change the whole nature of our mind and the senses. That's how it is going to work. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In Bhagavad Gita, the Pranava, Omkara, has been accepted as direct, literal representation of supreme absolute truth. So one who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, as recommended above, can chant the Pranava, Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address such as, "Oh my Lord," just as Om Hari Om means oh my Lord, the supreme personality of Godhead. So no, this is kind of, if somebody cannot directly utter the names of the Lord, Krishna, Madhava, Govinda, and things like that, so then they can take to the impersonal representation of the names of the Lord, that is Omkara. No, Omkara is the impersonal representation of the Lord. Personal representation of the Lord is the personal names. Now, in the names of the Lord also, there are secondary names and primary names are there. So secondary names means like no like Paramatma is a secondary name, and then what is that, Shrishtikarta, like the names which are related to the material functions of the Lord, right? So like Anumanta, Upadrishta, like this, and then Asamordhva, and things like that. And also these are all like names of the Lord which is connected to the material world or material transactions and things like that, right? So but then the primary names of the Lord, what are the primary names of the Lord? So Partha Sarathi, Gopinath, then Yashodanandan, Nandanandan. So these kind of names are primary names of the Lord, and they are more potent than the secondary names of the Lord. Why? Because secondary names means, like if you kind of want to go and meet some big officer in the government, and then if he's just, if that is your only relationship, we will say, okay, fine, no, I want to go and meet that officer. And if this officer happens to be your friend or your friend's friend, so then you will say, okay, fine, no, he's my friend, no, I'm just going to meet my friend. So that's more powerful a relationship, that's more powerful a kind of address than the indirect representation, or than no far away kind of a relationship. So here we see that the primary names of the Lord, like Krishna, Govinda, Madhava, like Nandanandan, Yashodanandan, all these things are more potent names. And then the Omkara comes in the category of impersonal representation, wherein it is not directly addressing the Lord, it is kind of indirect sound representation of the Lord. So it is not directly addressing the Lord. So in that way, the Omkara, chanting Omkara is for people like, as Prabhupada nicely mentions here, one who is not able to chant directly the holy name of Lord can be recommended to chant the Omkara, right? So if somebody has the faith in chanting of the names of the Lord directly, especially the primary names of the Lord directly, so then that is really best in that form. So let's continue the purport. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord himself. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvam Nama Naminaha. So also is Omkara, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu, like Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained to practice the self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranava, Omkara, within the mind. So as we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc. of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with present material senses, na bhaved grahyam indriya. Atha Shri Krishna namadi na bhaved grahyam indriya. So that is, we cannot understand the Shri Krishna nama adi. That means nama, rupa, guna, lila. So that is in short form in the Vedic terminologies, it is used as nama adi. Like starting with nama. So like Atha Shri Krishna nama adi na bhaved grahyam indriya. So we cannot understand through the present material senses. It is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set forth into motion, and the devotee directly fixes their mind on the person of absolute truth. But one who is unable to accommodate such personal feature of the absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. So now, Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaved Grahyam Indre Sevan Mukohi Jivado Swayam Eva Spuratyada. By chanting the names of the Lord, Sevan Mukohi, like by the process of Seva, Sevan Mukohi Jivado. So starting with the tongue, by the tongue we can taste the prasad of the Lord, and by the tongue we can chant the names of the Lord, and we can hear the names of the Lord. So if we are not chanting the names of the Lord regularly, then we will not be able to understand all these subject matters. It is quite difficult, and it will all be a bouncer, and it is just the starting. And as we go forward, so we will not be able to understand the subject matter at all if we are not sincerely chanting the names of the Lord, right? So that's a very important qualification for understanding the spiritual subjects. Otherwise, we may just simply keep hearing, but it will not make much sense, and we will not see much of advancement. So, but chanting of the names of the Lord is really very important. There that is what makes us eligible to understand this higher subjects, understand the spiritual subjects, right? uh, okay. Mm. So if somebody is not able to do that, chanting the names of the Lord, so then he is advised of the impersonal meditation, to train the mind to make further progress. So that's what Shukadeva Goswami is telling about now. Niyached Vishayebhyokshan Manasa Buddhi Saratihi Mana Karma Virakshiptam Shubhathe Darayedhiya. Gradually, the mind becomes progressively spiritualized. Withdraw it from the sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. So here it's like the whole process in this whole section, we are going to see about the secluded meditation, or the meditation that's going to happen in a place where where a person is like detaching himself from the worldly things and going and meditating in a secluded place. And we also discussed why this is mentioned, because most of the people assembled there are these kind of mystic yogis and jnanis. So just to attract them, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking about this. Purport: the first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of pranava, omkara, and by control of the breathing system is technically called mystic or yogic process of pranayama, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate state of pranayama system is to be fixed in the trance, technically called samadhi. So this is the ultimate stage. Now we know this whole Ashtanga yoga process. The first, it starts with yama and niyama, that is do's and don'ts, and that's what we saw in the previous shloka. So that is no one should give up the sense enjoyment and the family life and things like that for practicing this Ashtanga yoga process. So it is not that some yoga class I am just going to in the cities and things like that. So that's kind of maybe for a bodily exercise. It can never be a spiritual process. Spiritual process of Ashtanga yoga means first a person should give up family life and go to the forest. So we cannot even think of performing Ashtanga yoga in the modern day, that too staying in the city and things like that. So we can just use some processes of Ashtanga yoga, that is pranayama and this one asanas, for upkeep of health. A little bit of health upkeep can be done through that, but definitely it's not a spiritual process. No, spiritual process means in terms of Ashtanga yoga, spiritual process means it can never be done in cities. That has to be done in the secluded places like forests and places like that. So anyway, so here we see the ultimate state is to be fixed in samadhi. Samadhi means yama niyama, then like asana, pranayama, and pratyahara, then dhyana, dharana, and samadhi, or dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So this is like, these are the 8 steps, ashtanga, of this Ashtanga yoga. So in this Ashtanga, so this dhyana, dharana, and samadhi is a very important stages, wherein people are advised to focus on the Vishnu Murti. And Bhagavatam, it will come in the 4th canto, like Dhruva Maharaj is advised to focus on the Vishnu Murti form. And now, like, first of all, in the cities, we cannot do this kind of yoga. And these days, so many kind of systems have come, Vipassana, and so many yogic processes and things like that and all. So definitely, this can give some good bodily health and things like that, no doubt about it. But spiritual benefit, I don't think so. There is no spiritual benefit. Why? Because the whole process of Ashtanga yoga, as mentioned in the scriptures we are studying now, this dhyana, dharana, and samadhi is on the Paramatma feature of the Lord, or the meditation on the form of the Lord. And these people have very expertly taken the process and they have meddled with the process. They have changed many steps in the process. And then the essential aspect of the process, that is meditation on the Supreme Lord, they have completely removed that. And then now what spirituality is left in that? There is no spirituality that is left in that. So this is what is happening in the modern days. People take the Vedic process, they just make a khichdi out of it, they kill the spiritual aspect of it, and then offer it in a very nice package to attract the people in general, right? So this is what is happening in the modern days. So no, that is definitely not a spiritual process. It is like, no, everything is pre-preparation for samadhi. Samadhi means to be fully absorbed in the thought of the Lord. And now, no, you remove this thing, and then you remove the thought of the Lord, you remove the meditation of the Lord, and then you teach pranayama, asana, and all those things. And then even for that matter, like you are asked to focus on some sound or some light, or asked to vacate the mind of all the desires and things like that. So this is all bogus. This is all, it's like, you go and get admitted in the school or a college, and then all the pre-processes and everything is done, and then there is no faculty over there. There is nobody to teach over there. So it's like, it's something of like that sort. It's a blatant cheating, that's happening in the name of yoga. So that's why we need to study scriptures, and we need to know what is there in the scriptures. Then we can understand, what is what people are actually promising of. If people say, okay, you do yoga, you will get some better health, that's definitely accepted. Because pranayama, control of breathe, and asanas definitely will help you in betterment of health. But if they say, like, we are going to teach you some spiritual process, then it is cheating. Then it is complete cheating. No, we should not accept that, because spiritual process means to be absorbed in the thought of the Lord, which is, who is spiritual, right? So not some fire is not spiritual, some sound is not spiritual. That is not the spiritual process of yoga, right? So we should be very careful about that. Okay. So, but experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, become a victim of the senses and cohabited with Menaka. History has already recorded this. The mind, also ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious state, and thus disturbs one from cent% engagement in self-realization. So just in the previous page, we saw this even in the stage of samadhi. Now, we had kind of discussed this quite a few times in the first canto of Bhagavatam. So when Vishwamitra Muni, he was, before he became a great Brahma Rishi, so he was a king. And then he and Vashishta had a problem, and then he wanted to prove himself to be greater than Vashishta. And then, as a king, he was completely proven inferior to the Brahma Rishi Vashishta. So, but then he thought that, okay, what is the use of being a king if I cannot be if I cannot even if this sage is more powerful than me, then what is the use of being a king? So I want to become a muni. And then he becomes a muni, and then he controls his senses. And then when he's doing this tapasya, so I think one of the heavenly damsels is sent to disturb his meditation, because Indra is always in a kind of insecurity is there to Indra. Anybody who's doing serious tapasya, he is thinking that, oh, he's applying for my post. No, I'll be thrown out of my post and he's going to occupy my post. So immediately he will send some heavenly society girls like Menaka, Urvashi, Ramba, and people like that to disturb the meditation of these sages. So here also in Vishwamitra Muni's case, the same thing happened. So Menaka was sent, and then he fell for Menaka's beauty. And then Shakuntala was born. So this is a history which is well known in the Vedic Puranas. So we see that this person, he was there on the stage of complete trance. He was there in the stage of samadhi. But then even from that stage, one can actually fall from the position. So that is why Srimad Bhagavatam later in the further cantos, it explains that Enya Ravindraksha Vimuktamaninas Tvayastabhavad Avishuddha Buddhaye Aruhya Takshena Param Padam Tata Patanti Ada Anadrita Ishmadangraye. So that means Ye Anye Aravindaksha. So giving up the giving up the lotus-eyed Lord, Aravinda Aksha. Aravinda means like lotus, and Aksha means like the eyes. No, Aravindaksha. No, Aravindaksha. Vimuktamaninas, like no, thinking that they have reached the stage of samadhi, or thinking that they have reached liberation, reached the stage of liberation. Oh, they are avishuddha buddhaya. They don't have sufficient intelligence. No, that's what Srimad Bhagavatam says. So exactly that is the case of Vishwamitra Muni. So Tvayastabhavad Avishuddha Buddhaya Aruhya Krishena Param Padam Tata Patanti Ada. So they will know whatever stage of realization they have reached to. They have come from the stage of controlling their mind, senses, and things like that. And dhyana, dharana, and samadhi, they have reached that stage. From there, what will happen? Patanti Ada. They will fall. Why? Because Anadarata Yushma Dangre. So because they have not taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, so they cannot stay in that place for long. Right? So they cannot stay in that their liberated state for long. So they have to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That is when their position is safe. That is when their position is safe. Otherwise, they will have to fall from their so-called advanced position. Okay, history has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers the past sensual activities from the subconscious status, and thus disturbs one from person engagement and self-realization. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in Bhagavad Gita 6:47. So thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. So one of the things that we are doing every afternoon is that hearing of this Bhagavatam. This is really very powerful process than the process of dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. This is more powerful a process. This one, and then the chanting of the names of the Lord with absorption. These two are very, very powerful process. That we are blessed with to do every single day. This is really a great blessings upon us, right? So if performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. So we had explained that before. So text 19, Tatraikha Vayavam Vyayed Avachinnena Chetasa Mano Nirvishayam Yukva Tata Kinchana Nasmaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Mama Yatra Prasidati. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu one after another without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. So let's read the translation again. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu. So this is what I was telling. In the aspect of Ashtanga Yoga, the object of meditation is very important. So the previously what has been told of control of the senses and dhyana and things like that, that's all the process. But the process has to be applied upon the object of the meditation, that is the form of Vishnu. So one should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu one after another without being deviated from conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from sense objects. So, when we take darshan of the Lord, so then our senses become purified. It becomes like purified, and then our desires for sense gratification gradually reduce. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. Foolish persons bewildered by external energy of Vishnu do not know that the ultimate goal of progressive search after happiness is to get in touch directly with Vishnu. What is that? Nate vidu swarthagatim hi Vishnu durashaya he bhagirattamanina. So Prahlad Maharaj says this thing. So that's the same thing Prabhupada is writing here. So this is what statement that he's making in the first point. It's a Prahlad Maharaj statement that the real happiness, the real swartha is no is Vishnu. No one who doesn't know what is the real swartha, so that then he will not be able to attain happiness or peace in a proper way. So how is it swartha? How is it swartha, the Vishnu, or applying the mind on Vishnu swartha? So now we see that rather than doing for somebody else, doing some good for somebody else, if I do things for myself, then it is called swartha, right? So it is selfishness, swa artha, right? So in the same way, what is the swa? What is this one's own self? So like one's own self can be called as body, one's own self can be called as the mind, or even more deeper if we go, intelligence, and even more deeper if we go, it is the soul, and even more deeper if we go, it is the super soul, the Paramatma, Vishnu. So real Swartha is Vishnu, who's the innermost who's the innermost personality of our existence, right? So without Vishnu we cannot be existing. No, we are a dependent existence of the Lord. Sometimes people ask, like, no, where is God? You show me God, and things like that. So everything that exists is energy of God, and everything that exists is just because God is existing. Now, if God is not existing, what's the point of his energy existing? So a pure devotee of the Lord, Vasudevam Sarvamiti, like, no, he sees everything, and then he sees, oh, this is an aspect of my Lord. This is an energy of my Lord, like that. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice example. So he tells that when a small child sees a car, nicely moving around, he says, oh, this car is so nicely moving. But a grown-up man, when he sees the car nicely moving around, he says, oh, the driver must be really very expert. So immediately he thinks of the driver, he doesn't think of the car, right? So in the same way, the less intelligent people, they think, oh, this world is functioning in so nice way, and then so much of material things are there, and like this, so many aspects, they may think about this material world. But then no, that is not that is not the aspect of this one, right? So like the actual thing that is there is the person behind this whole material nature. The person behind the whole material nature is the Supreme Lord. So he is doing all these things, he is conducting all these things so wonderfully, right? So that is the perfect understanding. So that is why the real goal of the life, the ultimate goal of the life, ultimate destination of our life is Vishnu, or the Supreme Lord. So that is something to be understood. Vishnu Tattva is an unlimited expansion of the different transcendental forms of personality of Godhead, and the supreme or original form of Vishnu Tattva is Govinda, or Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes, right? So this Vishnu Tattva means, so it is a category of entities. So what are these category of entities? So these category of entities are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, like Nrsimha, Vamana, Hayagriva, like Hamsa, and like that, many different forms of the Lord are there. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam, Adyam Purana Purusham, Navayavvanam Cha, the Supreme Lord has many different forms, like Ananta Rupam, and then still Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So that's what Brahma says, that this Govinda, or the Supreme Lord Krishna, is the Adi Purusha. He is the ultimate source of all the sources, cause of all the causes, right? So in the first canto of Bhagavatam, we had seen this, many different incarnations were mentioned in the third chapter of first canto. And then we also saw that Ete Chamsha Khala Pumsaha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indriyari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. So Ete Cha Amsha. So what has been told till now, that means all the description of various incarnations of the Lord. Etecha Amsha, Etecha Amsha Kala means like part of the this one, part of the whole. So Etecha Amsha Kala Pumsaha. So this is all like parts and parts of the Supreme Lord. But then the Supreme Lord himself is Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. No, he is the Swayam Bhagavan, or he is the ultimate personality of Godhead. So, no, Vishnu Tattvas are called as the Swa Amsha. Swa Amsha means Krishna's own Amsha. So, as yesterday or day before yesterday we discussed that no, the different Vishnu forms are non-different from Krishna, but it is like one Vaishnava Acharya very nicely explains. He says that no, if you see a moon in its different phases, so like it is not cut into pieces from Amavasya to Purnami or Purnami to Amavasya. You see different kinds of moons, like no, half moon and quarter moon and things like that. It is not the moon is cut to pieces. It is only a certain portion of the moon is visible. In the same way, no, in the Vishnu Tattva means like in Narsimha, a certain portion of qualities of Krishna is displayed, and in Vamana, a certain portion of the qualities of Krishna is displayed. And when all the qualities of God is completely displayed, and that is called the form of Krishna, right? So this is the explanation the Vaishnavas give. So anyways, we will continue the purport. Therefore, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon the transcendental form of Vishnu, specifically upon Lord Krishna, is the last word on the subject of meditation. This meditation may be begun from the lotus feet of the Lord. One should not, however, forget or be misled from the complete form of the Lord. So when we are meditating on different aspects of the Lord, different limbs of the Lord, we should have the whole form, conception of the whole form, and at the same time we should meditate on different limbs of the Lord. So that is a process of this yogic process that is mentioned here. Thus one should practice thinking of the different parts of his transcendental body one after another. Here in this verse, it is definitely assured that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal. He is a person, but his body is different from those of conditioned persons like us. Otherwise, meditation beginning from the Pranava, Omkara, up to the limbs of the personal body of Vishnu would not have been recommended by Shukadeva Goswami for attainment of complete spiritual perfection. So, like, why it is so? Because Shukadeva Goswami has already given up everything material. So why will he ask his disciple to focus on something material? No, he will never do that. So if he is telling that, no, like meditate on the form of the Lord, then this form of the Lord is not material, no? So it is completely spiritual. So the Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not therefore arrangements of idol worship. No, idol means like, so we use these two terminologies. Idol means some murti, some form. So, but then we use the term deity. No, deity means like an authorized form of the Lord, which is carved according to the Vedic like scriptures. And then prana pratishtha is done, wherein the request is placed upon the Lord that, no, you please, be manifest in this form and please accept my service, right? So that's the way like a devotee actually begs the Lord, and then the Lord agrees to descend upon the murti. So then that murti is not just any idol. No, it is a deity of the Lord, or archa vigraha. In the technical terms, we call it as archa vigraha. So archa vigraha is considered as good as an incarnation of the Lord, as good as an avatar of the Lord. Archa avatar, it is called as. Okay, so the Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not therefore arrangements of idol worship, as they are wrongly interpreted by a class of men with poor fund of knowledge. Rather, they are different spiritual centers of meditation on the transcendental limbs of the body of Vishnu. So nowadays we see this, the movies like PK and different kinds of movies and all. So I have not seen that, but I've just heard about that. So these are all systematic propaganda of killing our Vedic culture. Actually speaking, whatever the movies are happening, whatever the social media is happening and things like that, it's a systematic propaganda for killing our culture. So if anybody says like, no, we want to destroy Hindu culture, or if we want to destroy Vedic culture, people will oppose. But then if they take movies in this form, and if they just make fun of some of the aspects of our culture, our people, they don't even know these are all parts of our culture, and they also go and see these movies and enjoy these movies and things like that. So like, it's a systematic propaganda is going on to destroy our culture, and it is we who can actually understand these things and put these things back into place. Otherwise, if we also don't understand, then next generation will never be able to see this thing, right? So this will be completely gone. Okay, the worshipable deity in the temple of Vishnu is identical with Lord Vishnu by the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Therefore, a neophyte's concentration or meditation upon the limbs of Vishnu in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scriptures, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate upon pranava, omkara, or the limbs of the body of Vishnu, as recommended herein by Shukadeva Goswami, the great authority. So if we can remember this form in the mind, that's good. Otherwise, now we can have the deity worship. We can have a nice picture of the Lord in our homes, or if we go to the temples and take darshan of the Lord, the form of Vishnu, and in that way, like our meditation can be fixed upon the form of the Lord, right? So in that way we can become purified. So when we go to the temples, we should not just see the face of the Lord or something like that. We should spend time to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord, the thighs of the Lord, the belly of the Lord, the chest of the Lord, the arms of the Lord, the wonderful, beautiful face of the Lord. Every single aspects of the form of the Lord should be meditated upon, right from the lotus feet, starting from the lotus feet to up until the face of the Lord. So this is the form of meditation actually. So the temple worship, or going to temple and taking darshan of the Lord, is a form of meditation. So that's the amazing aspect of our culture. The meditation and the spiritual process is available for even common people who don't even know these subjects, right? So that's the powerful culture that we have in our country. Okay, so the common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Vishnu in the temple than on the Omkara, the spiritual combination of A, U, and And as explained before, there is no difference between Omkara and the form of Vishnu, but persons unacquainted with the science of absolute truth try to create dissension by differentiating between the forms of Vishnu and that of Omkara. Here it is indicated that the Vishnu form is the ultimate goal of meditation, and as such it is better to concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu than on impersonal Omkara. The later process is also more difficult than the former. So that means the chanting of Omkara and concentrating on Omkara is more difficult than to take darshan of the Lord in the temple. So darshan of the Lord in the temple is so beautifully decorated. So we can just simply meditate on that form, and we will get the same result, or even rather better result than chanting the Omkara. Right? So text 20, Rajastamobhyam akshiptam mudam mana atmanah yache dharanaya dhiro hantiya tatkritam malam. One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature. But one can rectify such conceptions by the relation of Vishnu and thus become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. Right? So just by focusing on Vishnu, just by chanting the names of the Lord, just by hearing these Krishna Katha from Srimad Bhagavatam, so we can just cleanse our heart of all the dirty things. That's the power of these these narrations of the Supreme Lord. It's Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is really, really very pious and purifying. Purport: persons generally conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance cannot be bona fide candidates for being situated in the transcendental stage of God realization. Only persons conducted by the mode of goodness can have the knowledge of the supreme truth. So this is a very important thing. Knowledge means mode of goodness. No, we cannot say I am knowledgeable, I'm learned, educated, and things like that. So knowledge means mode of goodness. Mode of goodness means to understand the difference between spirit and matter. So if that is not there, then a person is completely unpad. Actually speaking, like the modern education is clouding one's intelligence, and it is making one more and more on the bodily consciousness. And we are becoming like more thinking in terms of matter than the spirit. So the real education or real knowledge means clarity of one's own existence, and that comes in the mode of goodness. And for that, one should get up early in the morning, keep himself clean, and practice the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, practice hearing Krishna Katha and things like that. So this is very, very essential for situating oneself in the mode of goodness. Otherwise we will be fully caught up in the mode of ignorance and passion, right? So then we will not be able to understand this higher aspects of absolute truth and supreme truth. Okay. The effects of mode of passion and ignorance are manifested by too much hankering after wealth and women. And those who are too much after wealth and women can rectify their learnings only by constant remembrance of Vishnu in his feature composed of impersonal potencies. So here, when it talks about women, it talks about the opposite sex. For man, it is women, and for women, it is man. So too much contemplation on wealth and opposite sex is considered to be in the mode of passion and ignorance. So then one's knowledge will not arise in the heart, right? So generally, the impersonalists or monists are influenced by mode of passion and ignorance. Such impersonalists think of themselves as liberated souls, but they have no knowledge of transcendental personal feature of absolute truth. Actually, they are impure in heart on account of being devoid of knowledge, um, devoid of knowledge of the personal feature of the absolute truth. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that after many hundreds of births, the impersonal philosopher surrenders unto the personality of Godhead. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanamam mam prapadyate. Right? So to acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonalist is given a chance to to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. Okay, so I'll just read this again. To acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonalist is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. So pantheism is a different subject altogether, but then here it is used where pantheism means like it's multiple God. No, just a minute. We will just see a doctrine that identifies God with universe or regards the universe as a manifestation of God. So this is called pantheism. Worship that admits or tolerates all gods. No, that is also called pantheism. So here we are not talking about the second meaning that is given here. So it's pantheism here. What Prabhupada is mentioning is not that every deity is a god, Ganesha is God, Indra is God, this is God, that is God, everything is God. So that is not accepted here. So it is about like the first definition that is there. So God with universe, that we will see, and in the further slokas also we will see that particular thing, how the meditation on the universal feature of the Lord is mentioned here, right? So here let's see. Pantheism in its higher status does not permit the student to form an impersonal conception of absolute truth, but it extends the conception of absolute truth into the field of so-called material energy. Everything created by material energy can be dovetailed with absolute by an attitude of service, which is essential part of living energy. The pure devotee of Lord knows the art of converting everything into the spiritual existence by the service attitude, and only in that devotional way can the theory of pantheism be perfect. So pantheism means not everyone is God. That is not pantheism. So pantheism here means that this universal form of the Lord, that means to identify the various features of this universe as part of the universal form of the Lord. It's a gigantic form of the Lord. The whole universe, meditating the whole universe as a gigantic form of the Lord. So that's the this one, and we will see that that is for the less intelligent people who cannot identify the Lord in his murti form, in his Archa Vigraha form. So for them, this pantheism is advised, or the meditation on the Virata Rupa is advised. Text 21. Yashyam sandaryamanayam yogino bhakti lakshanah asho sampadyate yoga ashrayam bhadramikshatah. O King, by the system of remembrance and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all good personal conception of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under his direct shelter. So, in this way, like if somebody actually fixes on the personal conception of the Lord, or meditates on the limbs of the Lord, so then he can be situated on the, he can attain the devotional service, and he will get the shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. Okay. Purport. Success of mystic performances is achieved only by the help of devotional attitude. Pantheism, or system of feeling the presence of Almighty everywhere, is a sort of training of the mind to become accustomed to the devotional conception. And it is this devotional attitude of the mystic that makes possible the successful termination of such mystic attempts. One is not, however, elevated to such a successful status without the tinge of mixture of devotional service. This is a very important point. So the Ashtanga Yoga or Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, all these things reaches its perfection only by the mixture of devotional service. If this devotional attitude is not there, then they will not be able to achieve the perfection in whatever yoga they are making. And then the ultimate success of that particular yoga is that they understand devotional service unto the Lord is very important. So that's what Krishna mentions, that no, bahunam janmanam ante jnanamam mam prapadyate. So the jnanis who's contemplating on these kind of aspects, the meditation on Virata Rupa and things like that. So jnanamam mam prapadyate. No, like he comes to the this one of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord in devotional service when bahunam janmanam ante, after many births. So such like meditation on the Virata Rupa or pantheism, now if somebody is doing after many births, he will come to the point of devotional service. Why not accept devotional service right in the front, right in the upfront? So the devotional atmosphere created by pantheistic vision develops into devotional service in later days, and that is the only benefit for the impersonalists. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that the impersonal way of realization is more troublesome because it reaches the goal in an indirect way, right? So what is that? Avyakta hi gatur dukkam dehavabdiravapyate. So kleshodikattarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi gatur dukkam dehavabdiravapyate. So that's the 12.5 is mentioned here. So klesha adikattaras, no, like klesha or miseries becomes increased. So klesho adikattaras avyakta ashakta chetasam, avyakta ashakta. Avyakta means impersonal, and ashakta means like no, to be attached to the impersonal feature of the Lord. Avyakta ashakta chetasam. So what happens is more troublesome. No, it's klesha adikattara. So because it reaches the goal in an indirect way, no, like bhakti can purify a person in one lifetime, and these jnanis, like in the impersonal feature, they have to no bahunam janmanam ante. They have to spend so many lifetimes to come to the point of devotional service of the Lord, and then no, because of that, they have to undergo so much of troubles no on the way, right? So it is indirect way, although the impersonalists also become obsessed with the personal feature of the Lord after a long time. No, that is bahunam janmanamante. So why we have to take such a long cut? No, we can take a shortcut and directly come to the process of devotional service. Text 22. Okay, so we will see from text 22 tomorrow. So here Parikshit is going to ask further questions, and then further clarity of the process we will get. So thank you very much for your kind attention. And so we will meet every day at this time, and then we will meditate on this wonderful like narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is really very auspicious. No, and thanks a lot for all of you for taking part in this wonderful discussions. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.